Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Boring Enterprise Nerds and Nerdletter talk. It's quite a mouthful. I'm Elena Perfilieva, and as usual, my partner Paul Moderman. We are gathered here to talk about the stories for the upcoming issue of our Nerdletter that we will publish, hopefully, fingers crossed, next week. So Paul and I will share at least three exciting subjects about SAP AI or whatever strikes our fancy.
Riveting, I would say
Yeah.
riveting subjects.
Yeah, okay. I need some phonetics exercises, I guess. All right, so let's do that. I will go first, and let me just find the window. All right, so my first subject is something that I actually kind of wanted to write about for a while. It's about ABAP code reviews. I finally remembered about this because I stumbled upon this kind of a guide from SAP, and you can see this is under
Mm,
official SAP account. At first, I thought this would be more like a guide to how to do code review like for humans, like what are
mm,
good practice as a person, as another developer, as a peer developer to do. But in reality, it is more like a tools list, like what you. So it's more about facilitating the mechanics of
mm.
code review. So how you can structure how you can manage your code, I guess, or development using different tools so that you kind of capture changes that are relevant for review. So I think it's good information, but to be honest, I think some of it is already well known and kind of common practice, like ATC, at least somewhat
Yeah.
common. ABAP Git as well is well known. The rest is kind of like, I kind of I don't see really this catching on, but I mean, hey, like it's good to have a list. So yeah, and it talks about this. As soon as I see continuous integration, continuous delivery, like okay, okay,
You're like,
I
oh,
fail, I
you're like, oh,
fail.
somebody's wishing on a star here.
Exactly. Yeah, ain't happening, bro. So not in ABAP. But I also found this post. So this is blog post of been a while, 2021. Geez. So an SAP community, someone um, offered some tips, and this is more like what I thought about when I think about code reviews. This is kind of what I approach it. Yeah, so purely practical for people, and it does include automation, which I think it's valid as a suggestion, but it's so this goes more about just talking about this. And what I actually liked more, you know how on Reddit there is a sub that's called LPT, like Life Pro Tips, and there is a kind of a common phrase that is use the real LPTs in the comments, which means that you have the actual post, but the actual tips are usually if you scroll down the comment,
Yeah.
that's where the meat on the bones is.
Yeah.
And I think that SE and blogs have become exactly like that because I always find myself scrolling and then finding the actual the meat of it in the comment section. So Matt, I think this is Matt Billingham. Unfortunately, in after migration, many people lost their last names on SAP community. So now it's just Matt, which is great because I do recognize him just from the name and from the way he writes.
Yeah.
So he's a moderator in ABAP sub. I am saying sub, there is no sub, but ABAP space on SAP community. So I kind of I read this and yeah, so this is exactly where I personally am coming from when I approach code reviews. It's really it's not about really mechanics. It's not about tools. Yeah, you can use the tools, but you can also do this without any tools whatsoever. And this is exactly the stuff that I'm looking for. So, and I actually like this expression that Matt mentioned here. If a bug needs fixing at 3 a.m. on a Sunday morning, the person who has to deal with it, psychopath who knows how to leave. So that's, so that's yeah, that's a good good expression. It's really I would say every time I do code review and how I encourage others to do code review, it's like if I am to maintain this, do I have the information that I need? And is there anything confusing? Is there something that is not well understood? Is there something that I see as a potential kind of loophole or something? So really approach this from kind of this perspective. If I'm
These,
taking over this, then am I
yeah,
good? Yeah,
these guidelines right here that Matt points out, like there's this phrase floating around these days called vibe coding,
yeah,
which is like, hey, just prompt and let it fly, right?
yeah,
Like, and I think I'm not saying that that's this, but what I am saying is that like these guidelines, the summary here, these are like, this is like vibe
yeah,
reviewing, right?
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
but in a good way, right?
Yeah,
Because it should be essentially like, I had this mental image of like, of like walking into a club, right?
mm,
And in the code is like, okay, am I vibing with the DJ, right? Are the
yeah,
drinks good? Are there good people to talk to? Is the music good? Are people dancing? Whatever, like that, but for code is
yeah,
essentially what those questions are
yeah.
in a good way.
Yeah, yeah. So does your code, is your code a good nightclub? So that's that's pretty good. All right, so that's about code review. Then second story, I think that probably going to be short one. I can pretty much just copy paste Otto's
Thanks,
post
Otto.
here and be done with it. And like, okay, yeah, okay, good point. Like, nice, insightful. How people say on LinkedIn these days. So Otto Gold, also my good friend from way, way back in the days on SDN before it became SAP Community. So Otto started as a ABAP developer. I mean, he's still a ABAP developer, but works in security space specifically. And he kind of said very succinctly something that I think many people kind of felt felt the vibe again
Mhm.
for a while, because when we talked about SAP security, let's say 10 plus years ago, it was for ABAPers, it was like, oh, are you talking about authorization, like authorization objects? That was probably it. I would say we haven't really dealt with concepts like single sign-on or OAuth, or if we did, it was kind of a niche or a fringe kind of case. But these days there is really much more to it, and especially with introduction of all these web services, data services, it's what developers deal with almost daily in many companies. And SAP security in more general, it's way, 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 way more than that. So you can see my comment that it's almost like full stack development as well, because it's just been spreading so much that you cannot really talk about this as a singular subject anymore. So yeah, super short story, just kind of, hey, SAP security
Yep.
professionals, yeah, we hear you. And
I,
so
ca- I can't do anything except agree with
yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the short story, so I think I'm doing kind of lazy, lazy issue this time because I'm too busy preparing for all the conferences I'm
Hmm.
doing. Um, I found this video. It's a year old. I always try to look at architecture videos, and everyone knows I like NDC conference. That's one of my favorites. I talked about their videos a lot just because they're good. I found this one and it's been sitting on my list for a while. Um, but I went back to this recently, and the reason I picked it up because comments were saying like, "Wow, this is like the best architecture video I've seen in my life." And I thought like, that sounds a little bit suspicious because some people would give IMDb rating of 8 to some kind of not really great movie, and I mean it's not really Godfather Godfather
Yeah.
material, or don't get me started on the coffee in the US where people say something is good and by European standards it's just pure garbage. But so ratings are and impressions are of course subjective, but when and you can see I haven't even stopped, I haven't even done watching this. I'm only midway through, but it looked
Mhm.
as like holy crap from the first literally 5 minutes, you understand that this is going to be really kind of life-changing for many people. And what I liked especially is that architecture Barry talks about is software architecture,
Mhm.
because I was afraid it's going to be again it's like enterprise architecture or more like servers and infra, which I'm interested in but don't really necessarily care for. So he
Mhm.
talks about software, and he talks about exactly philosophy, and he looks at the history of philosophy and different schools of thoughts in philosophy and how they um, have parallels with how we approach software development
Mm.
and software architecture. So really lots of interesting thoughts there. One that I especially like, so he talks about there is a concept of essentialism in philosophy,
Mhm.
which in a nutshell is he says, so there is some kind of ideal cat somewhere in like in heavens, in nebulous I don't know,
Mhm.
utopia, and all the cats on earth are just shitty copies of that ideal cat. And he said, well, this is exactly object oriented programming, because there is this nebulous ideal that allegedly exists, and we just think that whatever people do is with classes, they're just shitty copies of ideal, and that's why they're maybe not great. But so he actually takes lots of jabs at object oriented, which all of them are honestly justified. So I'm not like either adept or object oriented programming or hater. I'm kind of it's okay
Yeah, yeah.
for a good occasion. But he said he has like lots of really good analogies there. So I definitely recommend it. And what what it also made me think of is how hugely important it is for developers to have a well-rounded education. And it doesn't even need to be formal education because it's really hard to get, but having really wide range of interests, I think is just hugely important, because we do see some people who seem to be just so narrowly focused on just I'm just doing this technology and I'm just doing this thing, and it does move the needle. I guess for them, sometimes for other people too. But I think without having some kind of better understanding of either philosophy or art or history or some humanitarian subjects, I think you're bound to make mistakes exactly like what Barry is talking about here.
Yes.
So yeah,
I couldn't so the first few years, I mean, I still probably carry some of this with me. I need to see a therapist, but like the first few years that I was a software developer, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I am the bottom rung of garbage on the bottom of the garbage can at the bottom of the garbage dump." Right? Because like I don't have a computer science degree. I don't have any kind of engineering degree. I have a
yeah,
degree in theater, right?
yeah,
And I was just convinced. I was like, "Oh, any day now, somebody's gonna like put me in the catapult and throw me out of the castle, right?"
yeah,
But then, like after a few years, I sort of realized that like the ingredient to like staying relevant and some moderate level of success that I might have had was like it had nothing to do with the prior education. It had everything to do with like just wanting to keep adding to it,
yeah,
right? Like wanting to having curiosity and having the drive to satisfy that curiosity about a wide range of things and about things. I'm not sorry. I'm not trying to make myself sound like some kind of autodidact genius, but but just like the willingness to let something be learned, even if it can't be applied right now, you will always shock yourself by like, oh my God, I can't believe when I learned how to program my graphing calculator in eighth grade, that came back to me, right?
yeah,
I can't believe that when I read this book about like a biography of a baseball player,
yeah,
and an anecdote from that book came back to me,
yeah,
and I could apply it to like a review of a story in a Scrum meeting,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like that that will like in so such incredibly short order that will completely supplant any kind of like formal education that you might have or might not have as compared to your colleagues or people in the marketplace. Like in software I think probably unique in the standpoint of how much, I don't know how else to say this. For most jobs in most places in most companies, your formal education sort of doesn't matter, you know?
Mm,
Yeah. Anyway, that's that
yeah.
like I yeah. I guess I probably have a lot more to say about that, but that's my take on this
Well,
too.
that might be a story for
Yeah.
you for the next
Man.
newsletter. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I agree, and especially I found that reading about psychology was very interesting, and I don't mean psychology as in going back to, I don't know, back in the days to Jung and Kant, whoever
Hmm.
those people are, but about, for example, biases. I read a very interesting
Hmm.
book that is just collection of blogs, essentially talking about examples of different biases, but
Hmm.
that really surprisingly helped me to understand some things in software design,
Hmm.
and not to mention giving some practical tips for how to deal with this when dealing with user, for example, or let's say product managers, or just working with a team with people and understanding that, yeah, biases are kind of everywhere. So yeah,
Mm.
interesting subject. But
Yeah.
so these are my stories, and over to you, Paul.
Over to me. Okay, here we go. Um, uh, I like to peruse the Innovation Awards when they come out.
Mm.
And I think it's been a month or two since they came out for this year, but I
Hmm.
haven't had a chance to go in and read and or write about them. But I sort of love it, and it's got, I have like an angel and a devil on my shoulder when I look at these things, because like the angel is like, oh my gosh, it's so great to read about these different scenarios with these different companies and partners and that kind of stuff, and sort of learn what people are up to in these things, right? That's what the angel says. The devil on my shoulder says, yeah, but it's so like scrubbed clean of any actual real goodness that like, what can I glean from this other than, right? Like even even the categories are like, this is the services superstar category, and this is the transformation titan category. This is the cloud ERP
uh,
champion category. Like I like that's where part of my brain goes a little split, because like, okay, I get it that SAP is the one hosting these awards,
mm,
right? Well, hosting. I mean, I don't think there's any necessarily like Oscars level event for
yeah,
these things, but SAP is the one sponsoring and hosting. So like, I get it. Like the categories, you get to make the categories. Totally understand it. But at the same time, it kind of dilutes the like coolness a little bit if like SAP is giving an award for who is best at getting customers into SAP Cloud ERP, right?
yeah.
Like, I think I'd rather learn a little bit more about um, like pure business process things, not business process like channeled through the SAP marketing lens, I guess you could
Mm,
say. Um, but that being said, I'm gonna pick maybe two or three of these and go a little bit deeper and just kind of talk about what I saw and what I wish I could see in the details. Because, like I said, sometimes you get like, you get a pitch deck and you get stuff, and but then when you read it really in depth, you find out, oh, you don't actually know very much about what happened here,
yeah, like
you know?
what is it that you do
But what
exactly?
did you do, right?
Yeah,
So,
what
and
do
I'm not even saying this company did or didn't do that. I'm just looking at the example here. Um, but I kind of want to find a couple of examples of stuff like that and show people
it's
just because.
funny that Herman, that bottom right, I'm
Mm,
just reading the first two lines, and I'm like, oh, AI excellence, and then sales reps frequently lose meeting details. I mean, maybe
yeah,
like, is this is that a thing? Do they not have calendar on their
yeah,
phones, or I'm so confused. I honestly, I'm not a sales rep, but and I manage like three calendars at minimum.
mm,
Um, Not to count like client specific, but
yeah,
it's super. I would say it almost never happens that I like lost completely meeting details. Sometimes there is like update 15 minutes before the meeting and
Yeah.
maybe I miss that. So that's, but like, is that the thing? So yeah. And funny you mentioned that there isn't really a ceremony, and maybe there is, but I've never really seen it or heard about it.
Yeah,
So,
I could be totally
but
wrong. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I we don't know. But then if we don't know, then it must be super secret then.
If people as important as us don't know,
Exactly. If even we don't, then, then what are you even doing, SAP? So talk about exceptionalism. But so, but funny enough, I other companies like Acumatica, they actually do have similar awards, and I didn't go and look for this information, but I have seen them. I have seen videos of recognizing those kind of awards at their events. So it is a thing, and maybe actually SAP should be doing this really because, like you said, otherwise, I don't think many people even heard about this, that this is happening. And if there
yeah.
is truly some value, but then again, is there is there though? That's a
Yeah,
big
I don't
question.
know.
So if there
Yeah.
is a value that should be showcased more and kind of with bigger, I guess, panache or
Like
better PR.
the only other place I've seen Innovation Awards mentioned
Hmm.
is by partners trying to have a good badge on their
Yeah,
website,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Which, and I just don't, maybe that's a thing and maybe it helps them get sales. I don't know.
yeah,
But, like, I kind of don't think the Hershey company itself gives a single shit about
yeah, yeah,
this Innovation Award, right? So, I mean,
yeah.
we'll see.
But
Yeah.
I do think that for the people who did actual work, that is actually
Oh,
exciting
yeah.
because I think
Oh,
when I worked
yeah.
at IBM, I don't remember if we even submitted nomination, but we at least tried. And I thought that
Yeah.
we had a team of not just SAP developers, but many others. And we did a lot of work. A lot of it was in our spare time, and I thought it would be pretty cool for those people to get recognition,
Yeah.
not necessarily for like upper
Like the big,
managers.
and
But yeah,
that like that's totally true because
yeah,
like if I had ever won an innovation award or was part of a team, that would 100% be on my
yeah,
LinkedIn as
yeah,
a thing,
yeah,
right?
totally.
So yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
readers, you'll get a couple of little digests of these things, and hopefully we find some good nuggets. This next one, I don't know whether I'm going to actually write about it. I have a couple other of options here too, but I've been thinking about clean core a little bit more these days, and maybe even clean core as in like the real meaning of it, I guess, or I don't know
Mm,
if real meaning is right, but like every time I say the words clean core, I have once again I have the angel and the devil on my shoulder. The angel saying like I get it as like a good phrase to use to hook onto something.
yeah,
But the devil on my shoulder says the phraseology comes from like the vendor
yeah,
in this case, SAP, not the customer, right?
yeah.
And so I was going through and I didn't even do the learning journey. I was just kind of trying to glean little bits and pieces here and there. And there was this section here in this SAP learning journey about Clean Core. And the one thing that stuck out to me was this little bit right here. This is supposedly a misconception about Clean Core,
Mm-hmm.
which is that Clean Core is only about TCO.
Mm,
Like, I bet you if you talk to the CFO of a company, they'd be like, "No, it's all about TCO." Right?
yeah,
Like that's
yeah,
exact if I take
right.
anything from the thing of Clean Core as if I'm putting on my CFO hat, I'd be like, "Yeah, TCO, make that number go down." I don't care if you call it Bob or Clean Core or whatever. Just make the TCO go down. That's what I need. And so it
Mm,
kind of what kind of comes through with that then too is that like I get it that there's maybe some central ideas maybe here, but clean core actually kind of means something different to everybody in their own environment too, right? Because
yeah,
like if you like inside the SAP walls or SAP team walls at a particular company, if you're not if you're not able to do like the full-blown public cloud kind of stuff, which many people are not, like clean core means something different to you than it does to people
Yeah.
who are doing that,
Yeah.
right? And given your environment of the other stuff at your company, the other data tools you have, the snowflakes and the dynamics and God knows whatever other stuff they have like too. Like clean core also doesn't mean to that company as a whole, the perspective shouldn't be how good is my SAP stuff. It should be how good is all of my stuff together.
Mm.
And that may or may not like fully align with like what kind of goes on here, right? I mean, it probably does to a large degree,
Mm.
but like this is clearly like this is clearly from the lens of SAP putting like saying this is good for you, but because it's good for us, right? Because
That's
like
yeah.
that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't even know. I don't think I have enough to write about, but it's been sparking in my head a little bit. So this might sit on the back burner for me until I have more to say about it. But it's
I was
yeah.
just gonna say that in that paragraph, it's an embodiment of what customers are kind of thinking versus what SAP is thinking, and how they are not necessarily on the same page there. Because yeah, customers care more about TCO, but consumption of the latest innovations and especially move
Oops.
towards cloud, it's something that kind of SAP wants more.
Yeah, like
So
it enables. You could translate this to enables buying more stuff from us,
exactly,
right?
yeah. So it's so clean core is about buying more stuff from us. It's totally not the message that's going to sell anything to the customers. So,
I
but
guess I kind
SAP
of think. Oh,
truly,
sorry.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. SAP wants to do that. So yeah,
I all I was gonna say is like I kind of think there needs to be more like non-SAP people speaking up about
yeah,
this. I mean, I think there are people saying things about this kind of
yeah,
subject, but I think more customers need to like sort of like pitchforks and torches about like the stuff in here too, because
yeah,
I think the perspective is a little shifted toward SAP in the whole deal.
yeah.
But that's that. Separately, I did a little bit on the last story I did last time around was about I sort of wanting to beg my fellow developers to like at least start like learning to use some of these tools better, the AI tools out there in the world.
Mm-hmm,
And so I want to do a little bit, I think I want to do a little bit about just maybe some helpful explanation stuff about some of the new advances coming out there and how you can sort of either make use of them better or understand capabilities more.
mm,
Uh, the example, the focus this time I'm going to do, I think, is about I don't know if you've heard this nomenclature in the world, but like in the last 6 months to a year, mostly it's the last 6 months, there's been this big explosion, people talking about reasoning models
mm-hmm,
out in the world. And I kind of want to illustrate like a couple of the things that make those different
mm,
and how you can use those capabilities to better effect in your own software dev and or other stuff world. Because like even with what's going on with what reasoning models do, that's also a step change from like, 2 years ago, if you prompted ChatGPT about something, you could wish upon a star to get like the thing
yeah,
you actually want, right? The game continues to change in there, and I want to do my part to help people see the different pieces of the puzzle.
mm,
So the example here, we don't have to dive into it too deeply, but like this is an example of a non-thinking model versus a thinking model on the exact same prompt, and
mm-hmm,
why the thinking model gets it right and the non-thinking model doesn't get it right. So the prompt is make a table of the first 50 prime numbers and their English name, and then sort that table by the length of the English name, not by
mm,
the number,
mm-hmm,
right? So you can see here that this is a non-thinking model. So this model has no
yeah,
facility to like go back on itself and like
mm-hmm,
correct its thoughts.
mm-hmm,
And so you can see that it gets this wrong.
yeah,
It's not it's like it's since it's going from front to back and never able to sort of glance back and correct itself. It can't get the answer right because there's no rethinking
mm-hmm,
possible here. But if I give this to a thinking model, the thinking model can get it right
Mm,
because the thinking model can go back on its thoughts and correct things, and or it can create plans to do these things.
mm,
This is something, and I've tried this a few times, and there's actually a couple different ways to do it. In this case, the thinking model, it will show you its thoughts, and actually, it the first thing it did was create a tool to
mm,
do the pieces
mm-hmm,
of this stuff, right?
mm.
Which, I mean, as a programmer, I would probably do something similar to this
Yeah, yeah.
myself,
CDS
right?
view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you can see that it wrote itself a little program in JavaScript
Mm,
and then ran the program, and then it got things correct
mhm.
because it was able to like create a strategy and think through it
Yeah.
and revise on things. I've also done the same experiment where I tell it, you can't write a program, you have to just think about this in your head, which, and it's surprisingly they could do that. But it still gets it right. It's still able to like generate the list, but then like rethink through and sort it out
Mm,
before outputting the right answer. So I'm going on and on in depth, and I won't go too much longer. All I want to say is things like this and some of the research capabilities that are opened up by thinking models are a couple of ways that folks these days can get a more dived in perspective
mm-hmm.
on what's happening, right? Because I mean, I'll just be kind of peek behind the curtain here too. Like these extra capabilities are what make possible the product that I'm working on
Mm,
too. So this is like there's no magic here yet, but if you know how to string things together, you can simulate magic in this stuff here. That's all.
mm,
You this is something you posted in the Slack channel.
mm,
There's a CAP roundtable coming up, and of course I want to give a shout to the roundtable. And there's a recap thing. I think I already mentioned it, but I just wanted to give another mention for July.
yeah.
But thinking about CAP, one of the things that CAP tells me, well, there's I have two immediate reactions, and one of them is the deeper one I want to go through. My immediate reaction is like, okay, but like who's who's doing it? Who's doing CAP stuff? And that's not to say that nobody is. I know that people are.
Mm,
I just never meet them in person, it feels like. Right?
yeah.
I never meet people who are kind of focused on it. But clearly from the developer insights survey, you know, whatever however you want to take the sort of the selection of that in there, like there are people doing CAP stuff. Um let's see. There's Yeah. So there's survey stuff about like the cap variants that people are using JS and Java together or just JavaScript. Like there's people out there doing it, but I don't talk to them ever. So I still want to know more about like the world using cap, but
Mm,
that's not the main point here. The main point I want to kind of bring home is that annotations for me, which are part of CDS, but that plays a pretty big role in the cap model. Um, I would say that this is probably the biggest like brain stumble area I have in this space. Like for whatever reason, when I'm like if I'm designing a CDS view or designing an app to use CDS and Fiori elements or this or that or whatever, like I don't know what it is. For me, annotations are the thing that like I can never get my head on straight without just Googling something or asking a AI for help on it. Like this is the thing that like gets me going. And there's a lot there, right? Because if you
yeah.
just follow the like the different guides available for annotations and annotation
Mm,
vocabularies, there is a ton of stuff out there. And it can be really hard sometimes to be like to go from it from the perspective of like, I want this thing to happen. How do I facilitate that thing to happen via annotations?
yeah.
My brain is not efficient at that translation. And so I want to kind of just quick encapsulate some of the things that might help and even the things that might help me get better at it and share those things because I think it, they're just, to me, weirdly, this is the hardest part of like the CDS stuff for me.
Yeah. It's it's like its own language, I
Yeah,
think, almost. And yeah, it's every time like not only CDS views are kind of strange thing. It's again, it's not ABAP, it's kind of language in its
yeah,
own, and then annotations, yet another one. It's yeah, it's very easy to get confused, and especially since I think they're getting changed kind of all the time because they're like,
yeah,
oh, we start with this. If you look at the examples from like 5 years ago, you will see one set of annotation.
yeah,
But if you look, it's like, oh, we don't really use it anymore. Or like, yeah, this doesn't
yeah,
really do anything. But then developers just look at the examples like, okay, yeah, I don't know, this guy puts these annotations here. I'm just going to copy paste.
yeah.
So yeah, I think,
Like
yeah,
I just don't have a good like my brain doesn't like if I'm doing something procedurally in a language like ABAP or JavaScript or Python or whatever,
mm,
like I find it easy to reason about that.
yeah,
I just find it less easy to reason about annotations.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's for sure.
So that's my complainer mode on that.
Awesome, excellent. So this is at least six stories that you all can look forward to reading in our next newsletter. And as always, please like and subscribe and send us angry letters. We finally have updated our website, which we're yet to announce. But if you go to Warring Enterprise Nerds website, you can now submit all kinds of requests, questions, queries, again, angry
Yeah.
comments, all that type of thing, and we will definitely read that. So, thank you, Paul, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye
Bye.
guys.